Hello friend, in this video I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of the really simple document that I make to plan out an EP to sort of just start converging on what the identity of a specific EP, or you could do this for an album as well, what specifically it's kind of converging on for what was the general theme, what are the general sounds for this project, what's my target amount of songs that I want to have. And then also taking a look at sort of the song plan. And at first it's going to start with a whole bunch of songs that are sort of options, and eventually over time you're kind of converge on, you know, the songs that end up making that EP or album. So I like to keep it really simple. Largely the main goal of this is really just there's something about identifying a project and giving it a name and giving it a bit of an identity that helps you be more motivated about it, and it also helps to sort of just write it down, because then it's easier to converge on a general theme or a bunch of songs that fit with a name that you want to give the EP or album, whatever it might be. So I keep it really simple, and I'm going to give you two examples of this document. One is going to be for one that is almost done, at least in the sort of planning beginning phase. It still has a lot of recording left to go, but 4 out of the 5 songs that are planned for this Infinite War EP are basically set in stone. Still It Never Grows is the only one that might get swapped out from the 5 that you see at the bottom. I'll break it down real fast. First is name. Right now, the Infinite War, like that's the official name. It's not even a working title anymore. That is almost certainly going to be the name of the EP. Again, because for the most part, it's already found its identity. This one late in the process. We'll show the one earlier in the process in a little bit. And then overall, the reason it's called the Infinite War is that's literally the theme. The theme is overall talking about how we constantly have to fight sometimes the same battle every day. Let's take alcoholism for a second. If somebody is an alcoholic, that's not a battle that they just win. For the rest of their lives, they usually can't touch alcohol again. You know, if you have a certain weakness, even if you fight it back, it never really goes away. And I think that's true of psychological health. If you're dealing with depression, you know, you can certainly fight it back. You can make it so that it doesn't ruin every day of your life. But it's a battle you have to constantly fight. In a sense, maybe the battle's not always as difficult, but it's still something we have to fight. So psychological health is one example of a infinite war, right? The war's never over until we're dead. It's something that we still have to fight, even if we fight something back. So a lot of things in life are that way. Almost everything worth having. All to say, that's kind of the central theme of this. So then I just write something really basic about the general sound I want to go for. You know, so I want it to be big, sort of epic, piano heavy. I want it to be sad, but some triumphant horn sounds and deep organ sounds. And then I even give sort of a comp here, like Five for Fighting meets Hans Zimmer, right? Kind of got the organ idea from Hans Zimmer, and it's specifically Interstellar. The organ style I'm using is significantly different, but I love the regal sound of an organ. I think it's super underutilized. It's got an epic sound, but yet a very old school sound. I like that. And then Hans Zimmer, of course, has great use of horns, of course, looking at the Dark Knight soundtrack specifically for that, for sure. And then Five for Fighting for the piano side, right? So it's kind of a hybrid between those two. Sound-wise, target sound count, that's straightforward, right? 5. I'm targeting 5 total songs, and I largely have my 5. Again, this one might get swapped out, but for the most part, these are the 5. And these are some of the ones kind of waiting in the wings, like maybe this could get in there. And then just as a personal thing, I have for the songs that have working titles, and it's not a reference to their official title, I usually italicize it. This is technically a working title, so that should be italicized. But this is an example, like that is a song that is the title. But these are sort of the songs that could eventually make it in there. You could sort of think of it like, you know, these are the 5 teams that currently would make the playoffs if the season ended today. And these are all the ones that are on the bubble or in the hunt, depending on the sport. So I'll give you an example of one that's a little earlier in the process. So this one is for an EP that is in the very beginning stages. In fact, I'm really just circling around sort of a theme and stuff that's sort of going on with me personally, and stuff that I kind of want to explore a little bit that's a little different than the 2 EPs that are more fleshed out, and one is basically finished and the other one is halfway through writing probably, and probably halfway through recording. This one is literally like there is not a single song that I'm confident will be on this EP, and I have no idea what it's going to be about. But I'm circling around this idea of escapism and some concept of like finding Narnia or Terabithia, if you're familiar with either of those stories. And then something that hit home with me, something that frankly is sort of working as an inspiration for this, is I was doing some soul searching on why it is I have such an irrational attachment to Star Wars, and my love of George Lucas Star Wars is to a fairly absurd level. I was trying to think of like what is it that I have this irrational attachment, and I realized it that, you know, as a kid, one of my escapes, you know, the thing that I could always escape to when things maybe weren't so great was Star Wars, right? I could kind of fantasize that I lived in a galaxy far, far away, and that I knew Obi-Wan and all that. And that sounds silly, right? But like, for whatever reason, that's something that for me is a part of why I have such an irrational attachment to it. That was sort of my Narnia or Terabithia in a sense. Terabithia probably being a better example, since that literally was a made-up world, even in context of the book. But anyway, so that's sort of the thing I'm circling around, the thing I'm thinking through, and then, you know, what symbol do I want to use for it? And again, I'm sort of thinking through, right, what is a sound going to be from this? How is it different from some of the other stuff I've done? And then here you'll notice I don't have any with numbers. That's because all of these are just like vague possibilities. But frankly, I'm not deep enough into writing this to have any idea. But again, this sort of starts to make the EP real in my mind, starts to really help me think through, okay, what are some of the main theme or idea I want this to center around, and really helps, you know, it even just helps with getting excited about like, hey, this is a real EP that I'm going to make. Let me try to figure out where it's going to go. So I highly recommend doing this. It can be helpful in several ways. One is sort of just making sure that your EP is cohesive, because you can look at your theme and say, hey, do all 5 of these songs fit into this theme, or are at least adjacent to the theme, are similar to the theme? You know, do they all at least somewhat fit into the sound? Or at least, say, if you have a 5-song EP, you want to make sure like 3 out of the 5 fit that sound. If you have 2, that's a significant departure. Cool. That seems fair enough, right? But 3 out of the 5, that sort of gives an EP more of an identity. You can work through some possible names. It really just helps you to sort of converge all your ideas together to eventually come to a point where you have this EP planned, that you have the exact songs that you're going to have, the general sound, the general theme, the name of it, and it's just a really simple document to really help you work towards that goal of eventually having that EP that feels like an EP and doesn't just feel like a random collection of 5 songs. So hopefully this was helpful to you. If it was, be sure to check out my free guide on 10 different ways to start writing a song, because in order to write an EP and record an EP, which is going to be at least 4 songs, possibly up to 6 songs, or an album, if it's going to be more like 10 to 12 songs, you need to be able to write songs, and you need to write a lot of songs. And one of the great ways to do that is simply to learn to write songs from different standpoints and from different starting points, because if you keep writing songs from the same process over and over and over again, you're going to have similar results. If you always grab that guitar and come up with a chord progression first, eventually your songs might sound too much the same. You might run out creatively, and just doing minor change-ups like writing a bass line first or starting with lyrics first can help you to write songs that are just a little bit different and re-spark that creativity. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out. Link in the description, songwritertheory.com/free guide. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate every single one of you. Talk to you in the next one.